I'm Charlie. I'm an alcoholic. It's 1:31. Start with a serenity prayer. God, grant me serenity to accept things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Cool. Okay, this is the after lunch session. This is the one where everybody goes to sleep. Right. I hated taking classes after lunch. But this is good because this is a 7, 8, 9, and so we'll have more time for sharing because 7 and 8 don't take me long. And then tonight after dinner, I guess we'll come back and do the last one, 10, 11, 12, and that's it. So we're gonna have a break after 2:30, break till dinner. So I have notes. Yes.
Get smaller.
Wrong step. Okay, so back to the book, I guess. So we're looking at step 7, which is where we left off. We left off. We were getting ready to say the 7-step prayer, which is what happened with me. Two sponsors told me when I go home and I go over the first 5 proposals, then when I'm ready, I say something like this. And then, and it's on page 76. So this is the 7-step prayer. I don't know if you guys know it, but it is on page 76. And it says that once we're ready, we want him to take what he will. We go, my Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go off from here to do your bidding. Amen. And then the sentence says, we have then completed step 7. So that's it. According to the book. So let's move on to 8. So it says, now we need more action without which we find that faith without works is dead. So we go steps 8 and 9. And so they start to talk about 8 and 9, but it sounds like they're talking about 9 the whole time, that they're talking about 8. And the reason is simple. So I had a card like this, and it's in step 8. It says, and that's the problem with step 8 for me is, I wanted to think about it. So when I was making a list of people that I was going to make amends to, one time I heard somebody say, I'm going to make a list of, by the way, this is just how I did it. However you're doing it, if that's how your sponsor wants to do it, that's the way you should do it. But what I did is I wanted to make the list of people I'm ready to make amends to, because I was ready, people I would make amends to someday, and people I was never going to make amends to. So I kind of latched onto that, as a way out, so to speak. And my sponsor knew that's what I was doing. I was looking for a way out. He said, well, why don't we just do the step like it says to do the step in the steps? So it says, made a list of all persons we had harmed, comma. And I wanted to go to, I became willing to make amends to them all. He said, no, it's 2 parts. Made a list of all persons we had harmed. And all my conversations were, yeah, but this guy's dead, or whatever. He says, that's not what it says. It says, made a list of all the persons we have harmed. And he said, I don't want to hear about all your high school girls, or anything like that. He says, make a list so that you know who they are. You just did it in your 4th step. Which is kind of irritated me, because it says in the book, we refer to our list when we, right? When we're doing this stuff. And I said, yeah, but I burn it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So what the hell? And it says that we refer to our list. So, well, that's great. It's in ashes. And he said, well, it's a good thing we got to this step right away then. We have a list of all persons we have harmed and to whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. So I thought I had him on a technicality. And he said, listen, that was 2 weeks ago. I don't think you've forgotten. I think you still know who you owe amends to. So that's what we did. What he had me do. I made a list of all the people that I had harmed. And he said, I want you to put it on an index card. And I thought, well, I got a long list. He says, you're an egomaniac. Put the list of the people you actually affected, you harmed. And it did. It fit on two sides of an index card. And I would call him up and ask him questions like, this guy's dead. That was the best one I had. I can't make an amends to my father because he's dead. And he said, that's not what the step says. The step says make a list of the people you've harmed. So I put my dad on there, knowing I didn't have to do it, right, because he's dead. So after I did the list, he says, okay, let's meet in the coffee shop. We go to this coffee shop, and I give him the list, and he looks over it all, and he asks me a couple of questions like, is this money? How much money is it? Is this somebody from high school, et cetera, et cetera. But really basic questions. Then this is what he did. He holds up the list, and he says, now we're going to do the second part of the step. Is there anybody on this list that you would rather drink than make an amends to? So what? He says, there's a glass of whiskey right here. Either you make the amends or you drink the whiskey. Which is it? And I said, well, I'm not going to drink the whiskey. I'm going to make the amends. He said, congratulations, you did the second half. It says, became willing to make amends to them all. So there was no thinking involved, in other words, because I'm a thinker. So it was a real simple way to do it, and I do it with everybody that I sponsor now. That I take out, usually it's a business card. I mean, it's just a list, not what you owe them or anything like that, just a list of the person, place, or thing. It's not that long. And I've never had anybody say, I'd rather drink than make an amends to this bastard. If they do that, let them. Buy them a drink. Because if that's their position, they're going to drink. So it's real cut and dry. There's no reason to go any further. Yes?
So you're saying you don't have to actually make an amends. You just...
No, because that's not what the step says.
Okay.
See, you asked the same question I did.
I made my amends.
Yeah, that's where I was going, right? The step says, made a list, became willing to make amends to them all. So now I'm done with step 8. I'm ready to go. So now we're at step 9. So he said, now we're going to do step 9, and, it's going to take a long time. I've been sober, 45 years, and I'm not done. I'm still making amends. I'm still making right some of the stuff that I did. And I did make amends to my dad. I did make amends. And then the whole thing about the step 9, you could just spend forever in there. And he does write a long time on 9. But it says we were willing to go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. Probably there are still some misgivings, right? Like we don't have to make a mistake. As we look over the list of business acquaintances, et cetera, let us be assured. But see, when I read that stuff, then all I'm trying to do is complicate the step. It just says make a list. And then, and you have to remember that AA was in its infancy at this time. So when you went to somebody and like right now, if you say, hey, listen, I'm in this program and I got to make amends and here's $20 or something. They're not, first thing, if you hand them $20, they're not going to question you. But everybody knows about AA now. Just about everybody knows about it. So. And a lot of this is talking about how we explain to the person, this is what we're trying to do and everything like that. It's nuts and bolts. We just need to make the amends. The 9th step for me, the money part was easy. And I owed money. I never thought I was going to be able to make it. But he said, okay, if you owe me $1,000 and you say you're sorry, we're no closer. He said, but if you give me $1, you only owe me $999. And so, but I didn't want to do it that way. If I owed you $1,000, I want to come in with a roll of money and peel off 10 of them, and then maybe an extra one for your trouble. I did not want to send you $20. That's humiliating. And I don't have any financial amends to make anymore. It took me a while. It took some of them 15 years to make. I owed an arm breaker money in Vegas. He was my connection. And I owed him $2,500 when I came into AA. And then I moved and went to Idaho and everything like that. And I came back to Reno, and I'm trying to clean up. Dave said, you got to make amends to these people. So I just made the list, and I put my dealer on there. I owed him that money. He fronted me that through a series of bad breaks and misunderstandings. So I put him on the list. So I went to a credit counselor place, and what they would do is they would take whatever income I had, because I was buried pretty deep, and then they would give me an allowance and take the rest of the money and separate it out. And I put this guy on that list, and they go, who is this guy? It's like, because it's being taped, like, let's call him Louis the Finger or whatever. And I said, yeah, I owe him money. And they said, what's it for? I said, well, I owe him money. And I was supposed to pay the juice every week, the VIG, but I wasn't, and I've been gone for years and years. But Dave said, look, just put the amount that you owe him, that $2,500, and let's see what happens. And they sent him a check for something like $35 or something like that. And he took it. He took the check. And eventually, I got down to under $1,000, and I was in Las Vegas, and I saw him in a casino. And this guy was bad news. He was really bad news. And he walked up on my blind side, or else he never would have caught me. And he says, Charlie, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm just in town for this. He says, I've been getting those checks. And I said, well, I hope it's okay, because that's not the arrangement. Well, you wanted that vigorous every week. I never could have paid that. He says, look, it's okay with me. He says, you're getting cleaned up, and I think that's a good thing. You weren't my favorite customer. You were my best customer, not my favorite. And he said, you just keep doing it. He says, but here's the thing, which is why we call him Louis the Finger in this story. He says, if you ever tell anybody that I let you do that, I'm going to break both your legs. So his name ain't Louis. I've never told anybody who this guy was. And he's still alive, so I'm keeping track. If he dies, once he dies, I'm going to tell the whole story. But he took it. And so a lot of times, it's time to make an amends, and it seems like it's just not possible to make an amends. It just seems like it is impossible to make the amends. The easy ones are the money. The easy ones are, how do you make amends to, like in here we talk, blameless children? How do I make an amends to those kids when they stood at the window? Because they don't trust me no more. I still have never had all my kids together for Christmas. And that's 46 Christmases ago. So they still, they'll interact with me, but I can tell they're holding a piece back because of that, because that's how bad I had damaged them. I had a wife that I was married to for 7 years, 2 kids, and I had to leave. I was just losing it. I was getting loaded every day, and I had this whole other life going on. She didn't know about it, and I was trying to figure out how to make a clean break. And I didn't have the social skills to do so. So one day I kissed her goodbye. She went to work, dropped the kids off at school. I packed up my stereo and a quilt and my clothes, and I left. And I didn't tell her I was leaving. Then I got myself a pay-by-the-week place, and I moved in there, and I didn't talk to her for a week. And then eventually I did talk to her. But it was the best I could do. I'm telling you, that was the best I could do. So how do I make an amends for that? Imagine being the wife. The husband kisses the kids, says he loves you, and off you go, and then he doesn't come home. And the kids are going at night. They're going, where's Dad? So what does she say? I mean, where's Dad? How do you make amends for that? Well, I started sending Valentine's Day gifts for my daughter. I never missed a Valentine's Day till she got engaged. I took my son back to Germany where he was born. Whenever they asked me something, if I had it, I'd give it to him. I did the Chuck C thing. Anything I had to make your life better, I want to be sure and give it to you. And I did that, and I've done that for a lot of years. But I still haven't made that amends. My daughter quit talking to me over COVID. She got, I know this happened to a couple of people, but she wanted to come see my mom, but she didn't want to bring all her kids because she only brought 2 of the kids because my mom was a conservative, and she was afraid that my mom was a danger to her kids. That didn't go well, and we haven't talked since. So all I can say is, it's hard over the long haul to make amends that are just so stuck in like that. They're just buried like that. And it's never, when it talks about amends, it says, and you hear this in meetings, making an amends is to mend it like it was before. How does that happen? How does that happen? It don't. It don't. What happens is there's a new life that happens as a result of making those amends. So when I became the kind of a guy that was trying to make those amends, sending them cards, folding up $20 bills like shirts and sending them to my grandkids, and knowing I'm probably not getting the card back, just doing it anyway. Being the kind of guy like that, I've got a really great life because I'm that guy. Because of the action I've taken now, I'm that guy. But there's a few people in that waterfall there that are never, ever, ever. It's never going to be like it was. Ever. And then it got better. Dead people. It came in just in time. So there was this, I get this sponsee and he says, he had one guy, a couple on his list, and it was a couple that had lived down the street. And they were old, and when he was in his teens, he would break into their house. And he figured out a way to jimmy the window, and they never could figure out how he got in there. So he would go in there and steal their stuff. And, and now it's years later, and he says, how do I make amends to them? They're dead. And I says, this may surprise you, but they have not stopped making old people. There's plenty of old people. And there has never been a case fought in court over custody of the parent. There's a lot of people in hospice, in hospitals. The parking lots aren't full in those places. There's not a bunch of people going there to pop in and say hi, or reading something, or reading a book or something like that. There's not. So I said it's just like a scale. The ninth step is like a scale. And here's all the stuff you laid on, the bad stuff. And if you can do enough good stuff, you'll level it out. Chuck C calls it rubbing it out. So when I walk through, I picked up litter today. It's not my litter. But the point is, I want when I go through a place, I want it to look better than when I went there. I want to be that person. I call minimum wage employees by their name. You want to know you don't want to know somebody's caliber. Ask them after you get, the waitress comes by and then she leaves. Ask somebody, what was her name? My sponsor used to do that to me all the time. What was her name? And so I got to where I knew their damn name. I made sure they repeated it. Because being nice to those people is an amends. It's an amends because of all the way I treated people. People I don't even know I hurt. My hobby was other people's wives. And I thought you were terrible because you stole stuff. See, I never stole stuff. So here I am. I never stole anything. But if I could sleep with your wife, I would. And I'll use your toothbrush. Yeah, you're looking at a guy who's lucky he's not dead. Jeez. And if her husband had a job that included a gun, it was like throwing gasoline on me. I just had to have it. Like if it was a security guard or a cop or something. I mean, I should have been shot. Oh, God dang. And yet I'm thinking, you stole stuff? That's terrible. Oh, man. I mean, the toothbrush made it the worst. So, the amends process, back to the amends process. So the thing about how many old people they make, because they're everywhere, and old people get lonely, they do. And so I start, if somebody's sick or something, I go to the hospital to visit them. And if they're going to hospice or things like that, or don't look like they're coming back, I don't want to go see them because it doesn't look like they're coming back, but I go anyway. So my job is to kind of fill in that void a little bit, that way there. They keep talking about the spiritual life, and that's a 9th step. If I can live a life of where I'm trying to add something to wherever I am, going into a store, I went into a Publix, and there's a bunch of guys and they're stocking, and all I did was I said, "Excuse me, sir." It's kind of funny. "Excuse me, sir. Where are the crackers?" Now, this is a group of Haitians, and they're looking at me like I'm the cracker. It didn't dawn on me till I said it. "Excuse me, sir." I called him sir instead of "hey, boy," or anything like that. I don't do that. I don't go like that to the waitress. Say, "Excuse me, sir, where are the crackers?" And they all started laughing. I go, yeah, I know. No, I really wanted to get some crackers. and the one guy gets up and took me to the crackers. And I said, "Thank you, I really appreciate it." That stuff counts. Everybody's trying to be nice to somebody in a better position. So the whole thing about the 9th step is it takes forever. Yeah. There, that'll cheer you up. I have 4 kids, 3 of them talk to me, with 45 years older. And I go to a meeting on Tuesdays and Thursday nights, it's in Laguna, and with 45 years, I'm middle of the road. There's 2 guys here that are just coming up on 60, 58, 57 years. They all got sober they all know Clancy and Johnny Harris and Chuck Chamberlain. They know all those guys. And they went to meetings with them, and they went to that old time AA stuff. And I asked one time, just as a topic, I just said, "You don't have to answer me, but I got 4 kids and 3 of them talk to me. Has anybody else got that situation?" And it was shocking. It was just shocking. Say, Bill Wilson. There's a guy, Ernst, I think his name was, that wound up, Dr. Bob. There was a guy named Ernst, and somehow he wound up marrying Dr. Bob's daughter. And Dr. Bob didn't like the guy. And so they had a tiff. And they stopped talking. They were estranged. This is our co-founder. It does not change. And I think it's important to talk about that stuff, but I don't like the mixed meeting deal. That's why I like men's stag meetings, because it's something that's easier to talk about in a group like this. Because there's probably people in here that quit talking to their parents. I cut my dad out for the longest time. So I'm one of those, like he's got 2 kids, only one of them was talking to him, my sister. I wasn't. And then after it was too late and he's gone, I realized that we had a lot in common. Because he was trying to get sober, I got sober afterwards. Man, if I'd have gotten sober before he died, we'd have had something to talk about. Or if he would have gotten sober, he'd have probably been alive when I got sober. We were so similar, and yet I didn't talk to him. Just cut him out. So, the cool thing about the 9th step is once it gets all cleaned up, then it's just a daily thing, which is 10, 11, and 12, which is why I think 10, 11, and 12 are the money steps. That once we get way through the most of 9, that's why it says in 10, it says 9, we start 9, we get the promises halfway through 9. Like that's what the book says. It doesn't say after we do 9, it's not just, the promises aren't between steps 9 and 10. They're during 9. So. It does say, the book is amazing. There may be some wrongs we can never fully right. So it says here, it talks about the promises. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, meaning step 9. Oh, by the way, it's really good to have a sponsor. It's really good to be in touch with a sponsor when you do it step 9. Just run things past them. I almost went to jail. Early in the program, before I'd done steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, I didn't want to do them. I just said, 1, okay, I'm an alcoholic, I know that. And 2, yeah, I'll hand it over to anybody and all that. And then I hope there's a God. And I'm not doing 4 because I ain't doing 5, which made 6 and 7 easy. So 8's no problem. I got a whole stack of envelopes at home of people I owe money to. So I'll just go to the stack and start paying people off. And I realized, with a couple weeks sober, that I owed my ex-wife a lot of money, the mother of my 2 children there. So I put $500 together, and I went over to her house and knocked on the door, and she answered it sheepishly. I never hit a woman, but I did worse things. And I said, can I come in for just a minute? She said, yeah. So I go in and I said, listen, here's my pitch. I'm in this program now. And part of the program is that we make restitution. And I know that I owe you a lot of money for child support. And so here, I just want to give you this. This is $500. And I'll start making regular payments and clear it up. So far, pretty good, huh? And she said, okay. And she takes it in the back bedroom and puts it away. And I'm getting ready to leave, and I'm feeling like the glow of Bill Wilson, right? And I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And as my hand touches the doorknob, I went, could I get a receipt? And she goes, well, I don't know how to write the receipt. I don't know what to say on the receipt. So is it okay if I talk to my lawyer first so I can figure out what to write on the receipt? And I, oh man, you bitch. I'm having a spiritual moment, and you're bringing this up. So I never hit a woman, but I grabbed her by the throat. And I'm moving her towards the fireplace. And my 2-year-old daughter walked in. So I let go, I left. Went and called my sponsor, and he says, what are you doing on 9? He says, these steps are numbered for guys like you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oddly enough, that woman she's okay with me now. We figured it all out. But the daughter's the one that's still pissed. She probably still has it in her mind. So the steps are numbered for a reason, and it's also a good idea to run it past them before you put yourself in a bad position. When you write things out, you can't take them back. And sometimes there's legal issues. So I had somebody made a full confession about somebody, and then they called me up and said, hey, I just did a 9 step. I go, we didn't talk about it. And then he told me what he'd done, and pretty much what he'd done is confessed to something they shouldn't have confessed to. So he's doing H&I work now. God dang. So, here we go. So, if this here goes to step 10, I just want to cover it a little briefly. It says, this stop brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory, right? And continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. This is sort of talking about the promises of the 9th step. We vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. So we don't finish up 9 and then all of a sudden move to 10 because it's going to take too long. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. Wow. Yeah. So I'm going to say this, and we're going to we'll just break it into people's experiences and how they went about this or how they work with their sponsor. But I wanted to talk about doing the steps out of the book, doing the steps by the book, doing the steps like this is how we do the steps. this is it, you know, we do them this way. And I'm at a meeting in Delray, I won't say what the name of it is, but I go to this meeting with one of my sponsees who's a big book historian. And we go to this meeting, and in the format it says, if you haven't done the steps, buy out of the big book with a sponsor, we prefer you don't share it. I thought, okay, that's good. So I figured, well, I've done them out of the big book with a sponsor. So I shared. And then my sponsee had obviously done them in the big book with a sponsor, and he shares. So after the meeting, they get us both in different corners. And they're grilling us. The one guy's going, what'd you do on this list? And, you know, how did you do your fourth? And how did you do this? And I told them, and they said, well, you know, you didn't do it the way we do it. We do it out of the book. And so we'd prefer you don't share here. I go, really? He goes, yeah. At that time, I had 25 years. And I said, so I'm standing in a meeting that Bill and Bob couldn't share in. Bill and Bob did not do the steps out of this book. It didn't exist. So all of a sudden he's saying, if the steps, you're not doing them this way, you can't share. But the people that wrote this book didn't do it this way. It didn't exist. So the first 100 people, the people that handed this all to us, to get so stiff about the whole thing, I don't think it's a good idea. So I didn't go back to the meeting, but my sponsee, all of a sudden it became a project for him. And he would go back to this meeting trying to dig his way in. I said, don't, just relax. I mean, they're staying sober. They were sober when we got there. They're sober after we left, and that's fine. It's okay. But sometimes I think about doing the steps, which I believe in. I believe doing the steps with a sponsor out of the big book is probably the easier, softer way. But if somebody disagrees with me or has a different way to do it, I would never criticize or complain about it. So, that's it for me. I can tell you I'm not done with mine, so maybe another 45 years on it.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks, Charlie.